Hi, I'm Andrea Navarro, a customer success manager here at Integral, and I want to thank everybody for joining us on this live migration of the Hyper-V 2022. Over here, I have my coworker Nitish.
Hi everyone, I'm Nitesh Jha. I am an Azure Cloud Specialist at Integral and I automate things.
Yeah, so just to give a brief overview of the company, we are an Atlanta-based IT and consulting organization with 20 years of consulting experience. We have over 200 solutions in the Azure marketplace that are sold globally. These enterprise workload solutions support large businesses, government, and nonprofits. Today, we're going to demonstrate a live migration of the Hyper-V 2022 on Azure. Going to show that an end-to-end demonstration is only going to take 30 minutes. Our Hyper-V server VM is ready in 5 easy steps. And Atish will be showing us these steps, but please feel free to comment and ask any questions throughout the demonstration on the link below. Thank you, Nitish.
Thank you, Andrea, for that. So, as Andrea mentioned, like why exactly we are here. So, we are simply here to show that by using our Hyper-V server, that your IT team has confidence to successfully migrate existing or new environments to the cloud. We will see an actual deployment in action, followed by a brief explanation on typical challenges faced during the deployments. So, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and share my screen about like we'll do the deployment simultaneously, and once the deployment is done we'll talk about some of the challenges faced and what are the key features of that. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
So the first step would be like anyone, you have to go to your Azure portal and to your respective Azure marketplaces, and in your Azure marketplace you can search for Hyper-V server. And in the Hyper-V server, you can see that we have two Hyper-V server, that is Hyper-V server 2022 and 2019. For this demo purpose, I'm using the Hyper-V server 2022. So what you need to do is this will be any other VM which you will be spinning up in Azure. So this is the VM created by Integral, and this is the form kind of thing which you need to go ahead and fill it first. So I'll just put in my resource group name over here, then which is this, then I'll put the VM name. I don't need the availability zone to this. Then I have the Hyper-V Server 2022 selected. For the size, I'm taking D8S V3, which is 8 core 32 GB. You can select any of the sizes which you want. Azure has ample amount of sizes which you can choose from. Then I'll give the username and password to my VM. Say, so after the username and password, you can see the inbound ports. I have selected RDP 3389, but for the demo purposes, I've selected RDP 3389. But as a security recommendation, I won't recommend anyone to open the RDP port for any for your internet. It is always a security best practices that you should whitelist your IP in the NSG before using your VM. And after that, I'll select the OS disk. I am selecting premium SSD for this demo. You can select any of the disk which you want. From the option, in the networking option, I have my virtual network over here and the subnet selected. Then, and you can leave all the other options as default as it is, and you can directly go into the review and create tag. And you can see in the review and create tag, it will have the validation first, and once the validation is done, it will take 2 to 3 minutes for the VM to go ahead and create. And till the time the VM is getting created, what I'll do is I'll talk about some of the Hyper-V features and the challenges faced. What exactly are the challenges faced by the customers? So as everyone knows, like Hyper-V is a virtualization technology developed by Microsoft that allows you to create and manage virtual machines on Windows Server. When it comes to solving real life challenges in cloud computing, Hyper-V can provide several benefits and solutions. So some of the challenges faced are server consolidation, resource isolation, and legacy application support. I'll just deep dive into each one of them shortly. So server consolidation. So many organizations face challenges related to underutilized physical servers, which can be costly and inefficient. Hyper-V allows you to run multiple virtual machines on a single physical layer, maximizing resource utilization and reducing hardware costs in cloud. Then resource isolation in a multi-tenant cloud environment. Resource isolation is crucial to prevent one customer's workload from affecting another's. Hyper-V offers features like Hyper-V network virtualization and virtual machine isolation to securely isolate VMs and network, enhancing security and stability.
So, Nitish, I've also known of
Mhm.
the legacy application support. Could you go a little more in detail about
Yeah, sure. So legacy application support, as some organization have legacy applications that require older operating systems or specific configurations. Hyper-V support running various operating systems, including older versions of Windows, Linux, and other platforms, allowing you to host legacy applications in the cloud.
Gotcha. And can you explain how we can overcome these challenges?
Sure. So as I shown, like in the first step, that anyone can go to their respective Azure portal and choose our Hyper-V server 2022 or 2019 for their use cases, and they will be able to cater all their challenges related to these. So while we were talking about the challenges faced, I believe our VM is deployed. I'll just go into the portal, uh, and everyone can see the VM is deployed. What I'll do is I'll just copy the public IP of the VM and go ahead and RDP into the VM. So anyone in their respective computer, once they copy this public IP, they can RDP into the VM. So I'll just share my screen shortly for the RDP. And till the time I'm RDPing into the VM, why not, Andre, you go ahead and talk about some of the business use cases?
Yeah, so I'll go over some use cases that you can face sometimes. So, one case scenario could be your company has an existing infrastructure running on premises or in a data center. So, if you fall into either one of these scenarios, you can use our Hyper-V server for your seamless lift and shift migration. Another usage case is if you need to upgrade the hardware or add additional resources to an existing Hyper-V host machine in your data center. You wouldn't have to worry. You can leverage the cloud infrastructure by using our Hyper-V server, as it is easier to scale up, down, and it is a pay-as-you-go model, and you'll only have to pay for what you use. Another case could be if you are someone who wants to migrate to cloud and you don't know much about the cloud infrastructure. You can make use of our Hyper-V server for your first lift and shift, as we have all the features pre-built in our machine. And as Nitish is showing, it's really easy to set up.
Mhm. Thanks for that, Andrea. So I believe our VM is up and running, and everyone can see my screen. So once you log in into the VM, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and start the PowerShell. And we have some, like, the 5 steps which we are talking about, right? So those are the 5 simple PowerShell script which you need to go ahead and run in your environment for this nested environment to get up and running. So what we are doing here or showcasing here is that like we have an Windows virtual machine, and inside that Windows virtual machine, I'll be running the Ubuntu VM at the end. So for that, I'm creating this environment. In the first step, what I'll do is,
And if you'd like to get more information on these scripts, please feel free to contact me directly at andrea.navarro@integral.com or success@integral.com.
so as everyone can see, in the first step, I have some of the Windows feature which will be installed, and this might actually restart your computer. So till the time it's getting installed, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and talk about and give you some of the key features which actually have which Hyper-V has. So as everyone knows that Hyper-V is a type 1 hypervisor, which means it runs directly on the hardware without the need of for an underlying operating system. This allows for efficient and secure virtualization. Then key features, some of the key features can be like isolation, snapshots, live migration, resource management, integration services, checkpoint, Hyper-V, replica. So what exactly that does that mean? So isolation, like say each VM runs in its isolated environment, ensuring that issues in one VM do not affect others. Snapshots, you can create snapshots of VMs to capture their state at a specific point in time, making it easier to roll back to a previous state if necessary. Then live migration, Hyper-V allows you to move running VMs from one host to another with minimal downtime. Then resource management, you can allocate CPU, memory, and other resources to VMs, ensuring optimal performance. Then integration services, Hyper-V provides integration services for Windows and Linux VM. Then Hyper-V Replica, it offers disaster recovery capabilities by replicating VMs to a secondary location.
So Nitish, are these key features included in our Hyper-V server?
Yes, so all of these features, as I was talking about, are included in our Hyper-V server, and we have made our server according to the industry standards, so that anyone, be it an SMB, small business, to the enterprise businesses, can leverage it for their own use cases. And this is a production-ready server. And while we are talking about this, I believe our first step is up and running. So for the second step, what I'll do is I'll just have the script which creates an internal NAT switch to this nested environment. So what does that mean actually? So what happens is, if you can see, like in the VM switch, I've named it as internal NAT switch. You can name this as anything as you want. This will be the NAT switch which will help your nested VM or the Ubuntu VM to connect to the outside world. So we are creating a network for that VM per se, in the layman terms. For the third step, what we need to do is, I'll just assign an IP address to this. So as everyone can see, like in the third script, this is the script which we'll use to assign the IP address to the NAT switch which we created. I'm using 192.168 IP address over here, but this will be the IP address of the data center in which your VM is, like the hypervisor VM is running, and the IP which you need your hypervisor VM to have it on cloud, that is on Azure. Then for the fourth step, like I'll just have an CIDR for this IP address which I just created. And in the fifth step, what I will do is I'll just add this IP address to the firewall rules to the VM of the VM, so that whenever my VM is trying to connect to the outside world, it will have seamless connectivity and it can talk to the outside world. So in the fifth step, as everyone can see, I'm just adding my IP address to the firewall rule, and I'm allowing that IP address to talk. So once this is done, what we'll do is, as I mentioned earlier, that this Hyper-V server is managed, has been created by Integral. So we have everything in place. Like once you go into the server management in the tools, you can go into your Hyper-V manager. Just give me a second.
And like I mentioned before, if what you see in this demonstration is helpful for your organization, please feel free to reach out at success@integral.com.
So what I'll do is, now I'll just go into the Hyper-V manager and I'll create an Ubuntu VM over here. So this is what anyone can do in their respective environment. So once you go over here, I'll create a new VM, that is a virtual machine. I'm creating an Ubuntu 22 over here. So let's say I'll name this VM as UB22. I'll select the generation. In the startup memory, I'm giving it as 2048. So as I've assigned 8 core 32 GB, I can allocate my memory according to that. So it actually depends on your use cases. The internal NAT switch which we created in the first step, like in the second step of the script, it will come in handy over here. You have to select the internal NAT switch which you created for the connection of the VM, and then go to the next step. For the size, I'm just giving it, say, 20 GB. Then I'll say next. So what this will do is, my VM is created, but this VM doesn't have any DVD drive for it to run on. So what I'll do is, in the meantime, I'll just go into the Internet Explorer and I'll download the Ubuntu ISO file just for the demo purposes, to showcase how exactly we can leverage that.
Yes, and like I mentioned before, if you'd like to get any more information on these scripts, please feel free to contact me directly at andrea.integral.com or success@integral.com. And so what step would this be considered, Nitish?
So this is actually the last step. So this is the ISO file which will be downloading from the Ubuntu server. This will be the ISO file or the VSD file which anyone will have it on their end, and if they want their environment up and running. So as I was mentioning, for the lift and shift migration, how this will help is, say you have an Hyper-V server in your data center, right? And if you want to migrate and make use of our Hyper-V server, you can you will just have to copy your ISO file to this server and follow these steps which I'm showing, and your environment will be up and ready in the cloud.
Okay, perfect. And just to give a couple of facts of our Hyper-V server 2022, Azure's pay-as-you-go model, it can make it more cost-effective to use Integral's Hyper-V on Azure Marketplace, and it eliminates the need for significant upfront hardware investments. Users also interested in Hyper-V 2022 on Azure would likely benefit from improved scalability and performance, enabling you guys to run larger and more resource-intensive virtual environments.
So after this, like what I'll do is I'll just go through some of the technical use cases which can help the users till the time we are downloading our ISO file. So some of the technical use cases, like this can be used for server virtualization, say consolidation. So Hyper-V allows organization to run multiple virtual servers on a single physical server, reducing hardware cost and improving resource utilization. Then for testing and development, it can be used like test environments. Developers and QA teams can use Hyper-V to create isolated test environments, allowing them to test software and configuration without impacting production systems. I believe while we were talking, we have our file downloaded. As we are using Azure, it just takes 2 to 3 minutes to download the file. So once the file is downloaded, because we have downloaded it from the internet, what I'll do is I'll just go to the properties. And I'll unblock this file. So once I do that, I'll just show, as I was talking, that the VM is ready, but we don't have the DVD drive for the VM. So what I'll do is I'll again hop back to the Hyper-V manager, and the VM which we created, I'll just go into the settings. And in the settings, I'll go to the DVD drive over here. The image file which you see over here, this will be the image file or the ISO file or VHD file which anyone will be using for their Hyper-V server to get up and running. So once this is done, I'll just say click on connect. And as everyone can see, we have our Ubuntu machine up and running. This was the whole purpose of the demo, that it is just so easy, and in 5 simple steps, anyone can leverage our Hyper-V server and go ahead and create their own environments and can use for lift and shift or anything like that.
Awesome. Well, I do have a couple questions I would like to ask you, Nitesh. So have we determined the optimal number of virtual machines each host can support?
Yeah, so as I was talking earlier, like it actually depends on the use cases of the one who is using it. So as in the demo, I used 8 core 32 GB, right? So I could have like 4 Hyper-V machines on this running, like everyone having 2 cores of memory each. So it actually depends on the use cases. And as you are on cloud, it is a pay-as-you-go service, so you can scale up or scale down at any given point of time.
Good, thank you. And have we implemented security best practices, including host hardening, firewall setting?
Yeah, so all of our server, including this Hyper-V server, goes through all the security hardening which we have in place, and we make sure before deploying it to the Azure Marketplace that it is up and running for the production. It is a production-ready server, and all our servers are HIPAA, PCI DSS, and ISO compliance, so you can use across industries.
Perfect. I also see here in the comments, how does Hyper-V differ from other virtualization technologies like VMware or VirtualBox?
As like all of these are the hypervisor technologies. So as I was telling, that Hyper-V itself is developed by Microsoft, and VMware is developed by like VMware, and VirtualBox is an open source virtualization technology, and it all has the similar similar settings or similar capabilities, but also differ in some of the use cases in which you can use it there.
Awesome. And for my knowledge as well, what is the strategy for scalability?
So scalability, as we are on cloud, as I was talking earlier, you can make use of the cloud resources which Azure provides you. Like you can make use of the virtual machine scale set. So in case if you have you have a more load on your machine, it will automatically scale up or automatically scale down. And also at any given point of time, if you feel that your machine is consuming more, as you are on cloud, you have the capability to go ahead and to scale up and scale down at any given point of time. Yeah.
Awesome. And I do have another question from the comments. What kind of skill and training will your IT team need to effectively manage the cloud infrastructure post migration?
Usually, like if your IT team knows about Hyper-V hypervisor in, like, say it is an on-premises data center, they won't need to know much about cloud, but still they need to know the basics of how to deploy the VM, which I showcased in the first step. If they know that, like if you can deploy the VM from the Azure Marketplace, it is very easy. After that, the scripts which I showed, and for that. So once that is done, you can have your own course of understanding set for the cloud and cloud for your team to understand the cloud. So you can have that set up later on.
Awesome. And I do have one more question. So, how will we monitor the performance and the health of the Hyper-V environment?
So for this also, you can make use of the cloud resources.
Okay.
Like you can make use of the Azure Monitor or Log Analytics workspace. That actually helps you to monitor the health of the virtual machine, also to create the alerts if you need any, and to monitor any of the applications inside the VM. You can use all of these, included.
Okay, perfect. Well, like I said, if you guys have any more questions and if you would like to have these, get more information on these scripts, please feel free to contact me directly at andrea.navarro@integral.com or success@integral.com. But I want to give a huge thank you to Nitish. Thank you so much for showing us how easy it is to lift and shift by using our product, Hyper-V, for end users. And thank you so much for everyone for joining today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.